Hello and welcome back to my RC channel. I'm Andy RC and today I'm checking out the DVR03 FPV camera from Eachine. This is another all-in-one camera, but it has a difference. So it's kind of a advancement from the TX series, I guess you would say, where the TX03 you could change the power output of it from 25 milliwatts to 50 milliwatts to 200 milliwatts, and you can do that on this one, but you'll see here it's a little bit bigger, and this is because this one also records the footage that it's shooting as well as transmitting its FPV signal, and it records it in 720p at 22 megabit. So essentially what this is trying to do is be a all-in-one FPV camera and an 808/16 camera at the same time. You can see there that I have got it secured to my favorite aircraft of the moment. This is the Flex RC Pico X, and I thought this would be a good aircraft to try it on because you can see that it is bigger than the other all-in-one camera series, but it fits on this universal camera plate just about. I mean, not quite properly there. You can see that the lens doesn't quite fit down there because it is a lot thicker. And you can see there that I have put a micro SD card in the side, so this is just a 4GB one. You are not given one of these in the package. But essentially this thing works the same as the other all-in-one camera, so you can see we've got an LED indicator there and also a button on the top. So a short press of that goes through the different channels of the band, and then a slightly longer press will allow you to go through the different bands, and there is 72 channels on this one, so it's got a lot of channels to go through there. And then a longer press gives you the 3 different lines across, so you have the option to have 0 power if you're in the pits, I guess. Then one line is 25 milliwatts, a second line is 50 milliwatts, and a third line is 200 milliwatts, so exactly the same as the TX03. But then you can see we have 3 buttons here, and they call them CS1, CS2 and CS3. And this thing starts recording automatically when you power up, when there is a SD card inserted there. And then if you press this button, that stops the recording. A short press and another short press starts again. However, if you long press this button, it takes you into a menu system, very similar to the Fat Shark menu system actually, and from there you can format the SD card, you can change the format between NTSC and PAL, you can change the light frequency, so you can change it between 50 Hz and 60 Hz depending on the country you are in to stop the lights flashing when you're flying around. And you can also change the file splitting size as well. So it does split the files every 3 minutes. You can change that to 1 minute if you like, but I think 3 minutes is fine. And then these other buttons here, they sort of go up and down in the menu, and then a middle press sort of goes into that option. And then if you long press back into the main screen, you can actually play what's on the SD card as well. So if you long press CS1 there, you can then cycle through the videos that are on the SD card and watch the videos back through your goggles if you wish. So the camera is 520 TV lines. It is 1 lux, so it's not going to be great in low light. We have a 120-degree field of view, and it's also a CMOS camera as well. The file format is AVI, so not MP4 there, and as I mentioned, it records in 1280 by 720p at 30 frames per second. And then the output of the FPV is 640 by 480. It'll take up to a maximum of a 32GB SD card, and it needs to be a class 10. Now this one is known for having a delay or frame rate drop when you're flying, very similar to what I used to get when I used to take the Hubsan H107C and steal its FPV feed. This one does the same. So I hear a lot of people saying you can't put it on a quadcopter, it's best for going on a plane or something slow. So I will have to check that out, because this is probably one of the quickest quadcopters that I have got, one of the smallest anyways. And running a 3S, I think it should be pretty crazy, so that'll definitely test out whether you can fly and record with this one at the same time. So the weight of this one, it is slightly heavier than, say, the TX03. It weighs 7 grams, whereas the TX03 is around about 5, so it is a little bit heavier, but with this guy, I don't think I'm going to see an issue at all. And of course, we have a cloverleaf antenna on the top here as well. So I'm going to be flying this FPV. I'm going to be using my Fat Shark Dominator HD3 goggles with the Fat Shark diversity receiver, a Menace RC Invader patch antenna, and a Omway cloverleaf antenna as well, and that is so I can show you the DVR that's been recorded, because I want to compare the FPV footage to the HD footage that this guy is going to record. So let's get and fly it and see how it performs. So I was impressed with a few things on this camera. The first one is the recording quality that comes back from the SD card. I thought it was very good. Now there's a little bit of jello in this image, and that is just this quadcopter. It's so tiny, it's an 88mm brushless quadcopter, and it's so difficult not to have the vibrations come through. But the same with the 808 camera, that was very susceptible to vibrations, and I didn't think this one was so bad. The other thing that I was impressed with was the reception of the FPV feed. There was hardly any breakup at all. Now, there was an issue because, well, first of all, this is a 16:9 camera, and of course I'm using the Fat Shark goggles, which receive in a 4:3 format. But if you have one of the visors, or if you have the Dominator V3s, not the HD version, those are 16:9 goggles, so I guess you wouldn't have a problem with that. Now the downsides, of course, there is a frame rate drop when recording. It's not there when you're not recording, and it's not really a delay. Okay, there's a delay on all FPV cameras, but I think a lot of people confuse the frame rate lag with delay, and that's just not the case. There's probably the same amount of delay there as there is on a normal all-in-one FPV cam, but because the frame rate is probably 20 frames per second, maybe less, that means that when you go for do a roll, you could do a quick roll and miss a lot of frames and be disorientated where you are. Now, another thing that I thought was a bit of shame, and it's coming up now, is the 3-minute split of the file. So you'll see there it does miss about 20 frames or so when it splits, and I think that's a bit of a shame. But one thing you will notice though is I'm able to fly this crazy quadcopter with it. Now, to be fair to this system, I am used to flying models with a bit of a lag on the frame rate, because in the old days I used to take a Hubsan H107C board, tap into the FPV feed of that, and you get the same sort of thing. It's not a lag, it is a frame rate drop. And I guess it's a bit like when you're playing a computer game and you have a lower frame rate. It kind of feels like there's a bit of a lag, but that's not the case all the time. It's just that you're not seeing everything, you're getting sort of a cut of what the camera is showing, and it comes across as a delay. But you'll see here I'm able to do acro no problem, and I think that statement where people say you can only have it on a slow model is not really true. This is a very fast model. If you look up Pico X on my channel, you will see that it has a crazy amount of thrust, and I have full acro here. I'm flying in acro, and if you've got a big enough space, now I do not have a huge amount of space. Alright, if you were flying indoors, if you were flying through race gates, you would definitely run into a problem. But freestyle, I was getting some nice results, and you can hear as well that we have the audio coming through. So yes, this one does have a little tiny microphone above those little CS buttons as well, and that does come through on the FPV feed as well. So I think it's a pretty capable camera. Alright, you're not going to be doing races with it, but for casual flying and absolutely for sticking on a plane, you're not going to have any issues at all. In fact, the reception of this camera was very good. I'll put that up against a lot of these cameras. It hardly broke up at all. You do a sort of roll and you miss half of it, but once you get used to it, then it doesn't really affect how you can fly this model. And I have to say, I'm pretty impressed. This is definitely an advancement on the hobby, and if you have ever tried to take an 808 cam and tap into its FPV feed and get it to 7 grams, I think you will struggle. And I look forward to the updated version, because I think they can do it without the frame rate drop. So there you go, that is my review of the Eachine DVR03. I'll put a link in the description if you wish to get one. As always, thanks so much for watching. Please continue to subscribe. Cheers.